Welcome to the Property Management Law Solutions Podcast. Your host, Attorney Tim Baldwin, will guide you in all things property management, law, markets, politics, and commentary. Your property is his priority. Here's your host, Attorney Tim Baldwin.
Welcome to Property Management Law Solution Podcast, everybody. I am your host, Attorney Tim Baldwin, and today we have our special guest with us today, Don Redhead. Don, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I've been just anxious to get you on for so long now, and you finally made it.
Has it been a while?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been wanting to have you for a long time now, so you're finally here. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get straight to like a discussion, Don, so we can spend as much time as we can and talk about things. But for those who don't know you, maybe there might be a few out there who don't know you.
Probably a very small number.
Probably a very small number of people who don't know you. Give a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah. I'm with Don with Blue Commercial Properties. We do only commercial property management. We also do construction. We don't really get into the sale and leasing side of things, but anything commercial related management and construction, that's kind of our wheelhouse.
And you're here in Pensacola?
Yep, here in Pensacola. Our footprint kind of goes to Mobile to Crestview. Right now, that's kind of our footprint. And we started this company about 8 years ago. So relatively speaking, we're green compared to a lot of the other.
But you're actually blue.
Yes, that is exactly. We're actually
Where's my
blue.
drummer?
Yeah, we actually have on our podcast one that we do because we have Blue Dirt podcast.
Yeah.
Ours does have the buttons that sometimes is a bit hard to control yourself to not hit the clapping or the so.
See, that's advanced. That's advanced. Yeah. I haven't gotten to. I thought it would be cool to have that.
Oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
It is very cool.
You can do it post editing, but
it doesn't feel.
It doesn't. Yeah. You
need to be able to hit
energy.
the button.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. That's right. You guys have a podcast. I've listened to it. Who's on the show? But Mike Caro's on that show, right?
Yeah. It's usually me and Mike. We're just starting now to get guests in, so it timed very well. I think we had our first guest on maybe last 2 weeks ago. We had an insurance rep on talking about, property related insurance items, and now
I listened to that show. It was good.
Yeah, especially very timely. With hurricane season here coming about. So
you never know. I look at the National Weather Service, like not daily, but pretty frequently, just to see what's out there.
Yeah, when I first moved here, thought it'd be great to have a hurricane party. That's what I had heard about, right?
Sure.
I mean, and where I'm from, there's just a tremendous amount of snow, no hurricanes. and I was like, oh, this sounds great. But then now, obviously, with my responsibilities shifted into property management, right? It is just one of my biggest, constantly watching NOAA, constantly watching these things. And we communicate a tremendous amount with the tenants because, with the lack of communication, that's where confusion will happen. So we just, it's definitely a big concern of ours about this time of year. So
yeah.
We're always, one of the cool things is we do get to order certain tools and things that are the most, newest on the market, types of sandbags, newest on the market, types of devices. To prepare for storms, so that there's at least that fun lining to it.
Yeah, this is not necessarily our topic we'll talk about, but yeah, there's lots of new things sort of to help mitigate storm damage and effects and that sort of thing. But bottom line, at the end of the day, when you have a hurricane go through, you don't know what's going to happen. Anything could happen.
No. That's why you try to prevent. As much damage as possible, but at the end of the day, it's you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you have to just go post storm and do a full assessment of everything that's going on, and then come up with a plan from there.
Yeah.
So but that's not why we came here.
Well, yeah, no, it's
a good tangent.
It is. Well,
Maybe.
it's hard not to talk about that. topic here in Florida.
Well, it relates to landlords, right? Even if you have just a residential or commercial property, that's something here in the area that you're always aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
So Blue Commercial Property Management. You guys manage commercial real estate, and which is it's similar but different than residential. There's a lot more sophistication. I'm gonna use that word, sophistication, not to demean somehow another residential property management, but with commercial, there's some bigger issues sort of that are involved.
Definitely.
What are some differences? Just to hit some highlights.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. There is a lot of differences, and it does require a little bit more sophistication on a few different areas. Construction, right? Yeah. The building types, right? So we have retail, industrial, office. Are kind of the three main. We don't deal with multifamily, but there's some elements as you get into multifamily from a construction side that have very similar overlaps, like stormwater, power, certain things like that, common areas. But as you get into the building systems, that's where we have to have the right vendors, the right people on staff that understand these building systems that are just more complex. So as an example, like your building, right? There's an outdoor cooling tower, and then there's multiple air handlers in a cooling loop system that you're just not going to see in most residential. Yeah. You may see, I've heard in some high-end residential, but most likely that's not going to be your traditional rental properties. And then there's, we have big geothermal systems. There's chiller systems. It just depends on the size of the property. Yeah. And then, package units, you don't typically see that in there. So you need to understand that. So there's a level of sophistication there and education that if you don't understand how stormwater systems work, if you don't understand how retention ponds, function as part of that system, the electrical, obviously your house, maybe is I've seen some with 400 amp service, but 400 amp service is kind of common. So then you start getting up from there. Yeah. So there's that level of sophistication. There's also a big one is accounting, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. In our world, we use mostly triple net leases, which is kind of the investment grade, type standard right now. And if you don't have the right accounting protocols in place, then the triple net lease that you have is essentially worthless, right? If you're not monitoring the operating expenses that ultimately get passed through to a tenant. Yeah. And for some of the residential, I'll say property managers or investors, triple net lease essentially just means that you have your base rent, and then all of the triple net costs, which are the three N's, property taxes, property insurance, and common area maintenance, are all operating expenses that you're managing, but really are the responsibility of the tenants. They have the most control over the CAM, which is the common area maintenance, we call it, which can include a variety of different operating expenses. But then, you from an investor standpoint, if you can control those unexpected variations in cost, it helps you really underwrite an investment, safer, right? Yep. If you know that, hey, my base rent is X, and every year it goes up by say 3%, right? You get an inflation rider on there, and all of the other expenses are direct pass-throughs to the tenant. You know that with a high degree of certainty, your investment is going to produce X plus 3% every year during the term of the lease. There are some responsibilities as the landlord, structure and roof, typically with the triple net. So having those leases in place with the right accounting protocols is important. And then I think the leases, I've never done a residential short-term lease personally. I had an Airbnb for a period of time, but the leases, and one thing that I think is is very, I think, pretty cool, personally, I mean, if you want to use that term, about the commercial side is, you're dealing with other business owners, so you're really only limited to your own ability to problem solve to get the lease done. I mean, of course, and that's where, in the right scenarios, we a lot of times say, hey, this is a more complex lease, a more complex deal. We'll send over to somebody like you. You'll review it, right? This looks fine. Everything that you're agreeing to in the terms of the lease fulfills all the laws, right? We're not breaking any laws here, but most of the time, what people are negotiating about is more business side transactions on the lease in terms of, do they want TI, right? Tenant improvement allowance. So are they asking for money to build out their space? Do they want rent abatement? Do they want you to do certain work? Do they want, there's a lot of different things, and each tenant, depending on their sophistication, the larger groups we deal with, they typically want just a check for TI, or they want a rent abatement for a certain period of time. Some of the smaller groups go, hey, if you just deliver it to me, because I don't have a construction team, right, on staff. If you just deliver the space to me in a vanilla shell is what we call it, which is, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all working in good order, and the drywall is prepared, the flooring substrate is prepared, we'll take it from there. Or maybe they want a full build out, and we'll do those too. Hey, I want this type of flooring. I want very custom cabinets and conference rooms. Glass is the big thing for all the offices now. So from a sophistication standpoint, I agree. Once again, it's not to say that those other ones are bad, and there's some that are very sophisticated residential owners.
Well, it's not even so much the owners, it's just the nature
world, right?
Yeah, the nature
of
this.
The accounting, the legal process. There are a lot of those things, because if you're good at two of those, and you're bad at the building aspect, it'll come back and bite you. Because there's a lot of these people. You lean as much on your vendors as you can, but you also have to ask, I hate to say, pretty elementary level questions. Unfortunately, I have no problem ever asking those stupid questions, because I'm like, I don't know a lot, but that's how you learn. So if you're confident in your ability that, hey, I can ask, what does that actually mean? And it's pretty surprising. You always get people that, if they actually know what they're talking about, they can explain it to you as if you are 6, 7 years old. And the ones that just try to talk over your head usually don't actually know what they're talking about.
It's funny you say that. This is off topic, but I had somebody ask me a question about speaking and delivering messages to people. What's the most effective way to do it? How can I improve that?
Oh, just like normal communication.
Communication with people. And I said it's interesting because over the 21 years of my career, what I used to think was effective was, many words, like trying. I used to think that. But here I am now, after having done this for quite a while, and I say that if I can explain something to you in a pretty short period of time, sometimes seconds, then it's an indication that maybe I don't know fully of what I'm saying necessarily. So my communication style has changed dramatically. And honestly, I think that people really respond much more receptively to just, hey, here's the simple.
If you can make it simple, right?
Yes.
People will, and I like going, like you're saying, that's a great point, because I usually try to write very short emails, and at least on the initial topic discussion, go very simple, very broad strokes. If someone has an interest or wants to learn, we can dive as deep as you ultimately want.
You drill down on it and you find out what happens.
But the people that just talk in circles, that makes it very challenging.
Well, we see it all the time, politicians and whoever else. But but the commonality though between commercial and residential is tenant. You're dealing with a tenant and the relationship with that tenant, and so there are some probably some pretty common themes across the board in that regard. But from a commercial standpoint, what are some of the things that are sort of critical or maybe foundational to helping ensure there's a good relationship with this tenant?
Yeah, I think that just like residential, I'm going to venture to say, there's a spectrum, like most things where, once again, I'm going to venture out there and say with residential, you're probably dealing with people who are, sophisticated people, period, right? They're probably high income individuals, single male or female, and then all the way down to, the family that's struggling with multiple kids. So you're getting that whole spectrum and who you're dealing with there. It's no different than our situation in terms of, we have the groups that, are the Dollar Generals of the world, are the Big Lots, whatever, right?
Yeah.
These sophisticated groups where, I'll deal with an individual who's on this real estate team who really understands lease, they really understand the accounting, they really understand building systems. They're very sophisticated individuals. Their sole job is to manage the real estate spaces, right, for this tenancy, for this company. And those individuals, or the GSA, right, the government leasing agency, those people are great to deal with. They're educated on the lease terms, they're educated on everything. Of course, you can get certain personalities that try to throw their weight around, and you have to, deal with them. And then you get to the other side of the spectrum, where we'll deal with the small entrepreneur, right? They're most likely just getting started. They didn't hire an attorney to look at the lease. They maybe didn't even read the lease themselves, which is always a conundrum. This is from the opposite side. If you're going to move into a space, just read the lease.
Well,
it's not overwhelming. It's kind of amazing to me. It may be 30 pages in some scenarios. I mean, that's a commercial release, right?
Or even residential, the one I've got.
Yeah, right. Be careful, right? Get an attorney, they're going to just add a bunch of extra words.
Well, you got to cover your bases.
You have to cover.
You got to cover your bases.
Cover yourself.
Yep.
And our lease, we even tell people, ours is a pretty heavy-handed lease in terms of probably landlords' rights over tenants. It's not that we're not amenable. It's just we try to get as much out in the open and clear on who's responsible for what in the beginning. Because we find if you've actually read the lease, which once again, read the lease before you sign it, or any document besides the fact you can't really do that with Apple or any of those other things, right? You just have to agree.
They're called adhesion contracts, by the way.
Oh, is that what
that's what they're called?
Look at that. Learned a new term. Adhesion contract.
There's no negotiating power.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, if you want the phone, you got to have.
You got to buy it. Yes, right.
So, as you're looking at those terms in the lease, it's like, ultimately, almost all of them are negotiable, like I said. But the reality is, you need to review the lease before you sign it.
Well, this is a business. I say this all the time, even with the residential. And residential is different in nature in the sense that someone's living there, okay? And they're treating it like a home. They're not treating it like a business.
Right.
And the statute has certain, protections for tenants that the non-residential statute is completely silent on. So the legislatures expect businesses to negotiate on their own terms. However you guys wanted, it's a business.
I don't know what your going back to, the beginning when I was saying, what is your cash flow like, right? There's some groups that I've seen, some examples are a bit extreme, but I've seen where they come in and they're like, listen, we need you to upfront build this space out. And we're not talking anything inexpensive here. We're talking $500 to $1 million, maybe more, for a tenant build out. But what they'll do is say, listen, we don't have this upfront cash, but what we can do is pay a higher lease rate per month. So I don't know your building, your financial situation.
Yeah.
We can, in a lot of respects, if they're not corporate guaranteed leases with a sophisticated organization, we'll request financials like
a loan, like getting a loan.
Right. It's no different.
Yeah.
Hey, if you got 3 locations, you want to come in and do a third. I'm about to put $350,000 into the space, one that we're looking at right now, for a tenant, and I need to know how much money you're actually making at your other spots.
Yep.
Are you just coming and asking for a build out? I'll be honest, there's some that, because it keeps, we're the ultimate theme you're going to lean into is it's business decisions.
Yeah.
It's, everyone is different. There's another one that we just did a build out for, that what they were asking for, we had a raw space with really nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, we had power there,
yeah.
the panel, but there was nothing in place to where the group wasn't that well capitalized. It was a little bit of a risk for us. But what we said was, if you come in today or Joe comes in tomorrow, they're going to need this.
Yeah.
They're going to need the flooring. They're going to need the lighting done. They're going to need a new HVAC. So it's a little bit of a risk, but at the same time, the property, could survive, and we wanted that income immediately. We decided to upfront the cost. Now we have a tenant in there at least paying. If they don't last over a year, we would have put the money in regardless. So we could either sit there with it vacant and not put it in, just to kill a deal, or we can come in, do this build out, get this person in there paying rent, and then if they don't work out, right, then at least we have a space that's built out, ready to lease that much faster.
Well,
that's the spectrum, though, right? You got the corporate group all the way to the brand new entrepreneur that you're typically dealing with in this.
Well, what you said earlier is really interesting, because when you're dealing with people who know the terminology, know the concepts. Easy there, Don. He almost spilled coffee for those who can't see the video. That actually is helpful. So it's surprising to me to see how many businesses, tenants, who don't either use an attorney or just a commercial broker, someone who knows what leases are about and knows what you should be looking for, what your interests are, and negotiating lease terms. I mean, we get so many calls from tenants. Now, our law firm represents landlords, but we get a lot of calls from tenants.
Okay.
And we tell them we're a landlord law firm.
So you don't represent any tenants?
We don't represent tenants.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we just represent landlords. But the fact that we get so many calls, we get by far way more calls from tenants throughout the day. In fact, we almost need a person just to screen tenant calls, because they get in trouble. They are a problem, and it's like a lot of those problems could have been avoided, prevented, or at least mitigated by having someone up front to negotiate on your behalf. And it's just a great point that you said earlier. It's better to talk with the person who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. Hiring, if you're not going to hire an attorney to review the lease, and I think we've even incorporated in our leases now that say, I have been afforded all the opportunities to seek legal counsel, all that, and we even review that at lease signing. Once again, I don't deal with that very much anymore, but back in the day, it'd be like, listen, have you had a chance to review the lease with an attorney? If not, the minimum you should do is, engage with a commercial broker.
Yeah.
This is probably geared more towards landlords. It's no skin off the landlord's back, right? If you say to the tenant, you're going to pay the same probably commission to a real estate agent anyways. They're just going to have to split the commission now. So the agents may not like this statement.
Yeah.
But yeah. Now what I would say is this, is I have seen more often than not, surprisingly, they'll reach out to look at a space, right? A tenant, they would look at the space. We show them the space. We're almost, I'll say the lease is essentially agreed to, not penned yet. And they'll bring in a broker, and instead of the individual just reviewing the lease and making sure everything's good legally, they come in and they feel like they have to prove their value, and they start just kind of going all over the map.
Yeah.
So it ends up blowing up the deal. So it's like if they would have just got involved in the beginning, it probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
But they feel like they have to be, they're almost turned into an investigator at that point where they're looking for issues to bring up. So,
well, that's really not unlike the practice of law, quite honestly. When attorneys are hired to do whatever, represent their client in some capacity, and they just stir up dust and they stir up the muddy water, and it's like, this could have been really simple to get to a resolution, but your attorney is just creating all kinds of chaos. Now, some of it may be legitimate in the sense of they think there's there's a point to be made, but the point is that yes, I mean, I guess that really goes to picking the right person to help you, really, because if they create too much of a mess, then you may just, as a landlord situation, you may just say, look, we're not going to come to terms.
Move on down.
We're just going to move on.
Yeah.
So,
or there's another person looking at it, we'll just execute a lease.
Exactly.
So they should, if they are going to represent you, they should understand that their goal is to protect you, but to still
secure the deal
done, right?
Secure the deal.
So that's just been something very interesting that we have dealt with in the past.
I guess that's a probably unique talent then for someone to both advocate and to mediate, if you will, at the same time to try to get everybody to agree.
Yeah, I've seen it better with more mature agents, if you will. The new, once again, it's not a black and white, but it's just typically you see it with more mature agents. Not the young ones will come in trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
I mean, they all are, but
it's like life, right? I mean,
right? Yeah.
As you get older, you should become more,
confident,
wise,
right?
wise at what you're doing.
Wise what you do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that going back to I don't even know if we're done with it, but that's the spectrum of the sophistication that you're dealing with from a tenant side of the equation.
Well, let's talk about, let's jump into another topic. So the common area spaces, I kind of want to talk about that because
something near and dear to your
something near and dear to my heart. But it becomes sometimes a problem or an issue, or at least it's just something you've got to work through. So what are, for people listening who may be involved in commercial rentals and such, maybe you can say something that's going to be helpful for them, but talk a little bit about that for a moment.
The common areas, so from an investment side on the commercial real estate, your preference, the margins are typically smaller, but you're always preferring the standalone single tenant triple net lease. Those are typically what you see traded on the cap rate market the most. They're the most hands-off. Tenants respond, and especially if you go into something that's called an absolute triple net lease, which means the tenant is responsible for absolutely everything. Roof structure, anything there, it's all their responsibility. Right. When you start to shift into, right now what we're looking at is a large industrial development that we're taking over currently. It's 120,000 square foot roughly, and it has common area that is no different than the office common area that we deal with probably more frequently, and it just poses its own set of challenges that if you're mindful of, and usually you have to learn through experience because you're mediating issues right between the tenants. And most of them are very fair,
most tenants are.
Most tenants are.
Yeah.
We find that it's, especially in the business world, it is a lot fairer, or they're a lot fairer to deal with than probably the residential groups, right? There's just less emotion.
Less emotion.
Passion.
Yeah.
Towards it. But as we step into, so we have a great office property. We just took over the building you guys are in, and that one has quite a bit of common area as well, right?
Yeah.
So you have restrooms. As you step into those types of management assignments or investments, you have to understand that there's additional cost that you have to outlay to maintain those areas because you can say everyone's responsible, but in the reality, no one's responsible.
Yeah.
You have to, have a group that does the cleaning. You have to have a group that restocks the toilet papers, scrubs the toilets. Of course, if you want to do it, that's fine. You just have to understand it's you, not the tenants.
Yeah.
Then you get into common area kitchens, right? Well, they left their dish there. Or can you believe Sue left her Tupperware in the fridge for the past 8 months? So
I can't help. I'm sorry. I can't help but think. I gotta say, Friends, the show, one of my favorite shows.
I've never seen it. What's it about?
Don.
Keep going.
No, I can't even. I can't even
I've seen it
continue.
once or twice.
Ross, you know the character Ross?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, he has a leftover Thanksgiving sandwich in the refrigerator at work.
Okay.
And someone took his sandwich. It was like the only thing that he had going for him at the time of his life. Okay. He was in a really bad situation. But the sandwich was near and dear to his heart. And he left it in the refrigerator in the community.
Cleaner, right? Right.
And someone ate his sandwich.
Oh, they ate it. Okay, they didn't just throw it out. Right?
No, they ate his sandwich, even threw some away that they didn't eat, and he went ballistic. And he had to go to anyway. One of the funniest scenes. Okay?
I'll watch this episode.
I'm sorry, Don. I thought that you and I had more in common than that. Apparently, we do not.
No,
so I'm a little disappointed.
I didn't have TV growing up, so.
Anyways, yes. So refrigerators and all that kind of stuff.
You have to mediate all this type of stuff. And the best thing you can do is just be aware of certain rules that you'll have to implement. And a lot of them you're just going to have to learn.
Right.
Through
because each building's different, right? I mean, as far as the dynamic of it.
I mean, we have some that the common area is literally just a bathroom, and some hallways. There's some that are pretty extensive common area kitchens that, because of we have mostly triple net, but we have triple net leases, and then we also do quite a few executive buildings, executive office buildings where we lease out individual offices. And those have much more extensive common areas. Surprisingly, the common areas in those type of environments aren't actually as contentious, because I think there's a psychological understanding that they are just in this office and there's a lot of other neighbors.
Yeah.
Where some of the other ones that we maybe have less, so bigger units, right, with less individual businesses in there. So not that there's less people, just less businesses. They tend to have a bit more possession because they go, well, I'm leasing 50% of the building.
Yeah.
So I need 50% of the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's my kitchen.
Right.
And I want, these cabinets marked, and you just have to, mitigate that with signage.
Yeah.
Hey, the fridge is cleaned out once a week. Name your stuff. Here's markers. You have to provide these things.
It's probably like kindergarten class a little bit.
It's very close.
Yeah, everybody grab your markers, label your lunchbox.
Label your backpack. That's your blankie. That's your whatever. But it is, and once again,
and I could act like a 5-year-old myself at times.
Correct. Yeah. Right. It's I show up and it's all mine.
Yeah.
Right. So you just need to cut it off with communicating things in advance, put it in the lease, put those types of infrastructure in place. Like I said, we have on the fridges the area where it's got markers, it's got your sticky notes. It says this is the day that the fridge is cleaned out. If date your stuff. Yeah. We provide the coffee. We provide the stuff for these certain areas.
You haven't provided coffee for me yet at our office.
Yeah, it's not in the lease. So,
I need to negotiate that term, I suppose.
Apparently. It just goes up per square foot.
I guess so, yeah.
The other part, is common area exterior that we'll deal with a lot. Parking is always one, especially in offices. It's no different than what we see right now with downtown Pensacola. Everyone feels that they are entitled to the parking spot out front of their favorite restaurant.
Yeah, sure.
Just like me. I think so.
Exactly.
I think when I show up to the restaurant, my favorite table, they should get up and leave, right? It's
and the waitress that you like.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I should have my cocktail choice almost waiting upon me seating. I just believe that's what I'm entitled to. Are you?
Yeah.
No, right? That's just not realistic or fair. Maybe one day it will be.
And by comparison, the tip goes way up if that's what you're expecting.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
If you do that, then you probably will get it.
You probably will.
If you tip that crazy, then they'll probably do everything.
Yeah, here comes Don.
But in hindsight, I probably only want to tip 20%.
Yeah,
right. Maybe one day when I have more money, I'll be more generous. So the parking is always contentious. We try to just do first come, first serve. Some things are negotiated in leases. Hey, I have a retail type tenancy, and I service people with disabilities. We'll make certain concessions, but we try to lean away from, listen, it's first come, first serve. Those types of situations just end up, serving you well in the long run.
Yeah.
Same thing with trash.
Yeah.
And this is something we're going through right now with that industrial development. Each tenant we're going to require to have their own trash receptacle, but there's only 2 dumpster corrals. Mm-hmm. So, what do you do? Right? It's first come, first serve. So there's never a perfect answer for everything, but you need to make a decision, kind of stick with it. If it becomes something where it's untenable, unruly, and you're not getting it, you just have to evolve, and you're going to learn. Each property is different. You can have certain.
This really speaks to my residential lease is like just the terms and conditions. I think it's like 40 pages. Okay. Mm-hmm. And people, well, man, that's too big. I don't want to lease that big. And then
that's a landlord or the owner's telling you that.
Typically, at the landlord, is like, man, I want something more simple. And it's like, well, I completely understand that, and I really wish I would agree with you. But the truth is that experience has shown why all these things are necessary. Not to mention, you can go into a lot of the legal aspects of what happens, but you're trying to control the variables as a landlord. And the only way you can control variables is through the lease or proper addendum. And so all these things you're talking about, it's like you can micromanage that if you want it, and you could even. If you had a discussion with me, I'd tell you we can create an addendum, and it governs all this stuff. And maybe that's appropriate for some spaces. Other spaces, you're hoping the tenants just simply use good common courtesy.
Yeah. You just hope that they're pleasant with each other. They maintain everything as they should. Good working order. They pay on time.
Yeah.
And then you usually don't ever hear from them.
Yeah.
Right. But I agree with your stance that I have always been better served. It sounds, been better served with more information in the lease. And getting everyone on the same page in the beginning is so much easier.
Yeah.
If you have all these extra clauses that address all these things. Hey, what happens if a hurricane hits? What happens, if there's a total loss? What happens if, what if, right?
Yeah.
All these what ifs. The time to get people to agree to all this is good business sense, period.
Yep.
Is in the beginning. Because that's when everyone remembers it, and that's when everyone's friends.
Yep.
So either one, because you'll eventually run into where I'm just going to forget.
Yeah.
People call me all the time, and they're like, hey, what's going on with this part of my lease? I'm like, I haven't talked to you in 4 years, man.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I know, but what about this? I'm like, we have 500 leases.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Each one is different.
Yeah.
And you expect me to remember it off bet? You can't. So, and once again, I just brought up another important point, is this was 4 years ago. Commercial leases, we're trying to do 3, 5, 10 years. So you may not hear from someone for years. You may, only hear from when it's time to renew, or you may never hear from them.
Yep.
Right? Or you hear from all the time.
Yep.
So agreeing on the front end just makes it easy. Everyone is amenable. Everyone's, hey, we're all friends, and our memory's fresh.
Kind of reminds me of getting married. Like, You kind of want to know, like, do you want to have kids or no kids? You know?
There's 5 things I always forget what it's like: financially, kids, right? Religion, politics.
Yeah.
You know, maybe cleanliness.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Let's agree on these.
Let's agree on some of these things.
And we'll probably have a good marriage.
Yeah.
Right?
But in your discussion, here's the thing. Here's the truth about this: is that when you're in a real relationship with somebody, we're getting into marriage stuff now. But when you're in a real relationship with, it is very. I could make this thing go out other places, but natural conversation is such that those things come out naturally, right? It's not like it's a questionnaire. Okay, let's check these boxes.
Yeah, if you're communicating, most likely you're going to talk about those things.
That should come up.
Like, hey, you didn't do the dishes. Get in there and do the dishes.
But with the landlord-tenant relationship, it doesn't quite come up that naturally, and so there has to be conversation, which is contained in the lease.
And we take a position, I think, that, you know, we have a heavy-handed lease, like I said, that's longer, that outlines a lot of hypotheticals, some of which...
I don't like that terminology, by the way.
Which one?
Heavy-handed. It gives a bad connotation for landlords. It's thorough. It's a thorough lease.
Very extensive.
Yes.
Thorough, extensive.
Yes.
We have a very extensive lease. Thorough lease. That covers a lot of scenarios that most likely you're never going to deal with. But if it's outlined there, it just makes it so much easier to go back later and say, how do we address this problem as it comes up? Mm-hmm. So we don't try to go that direction, and a lot of times someone will call us, you know, say 3 years down the road, they've had some issues, right? With on a negative side, we'll go both sides, right? Say they've had some issues, and now they're looking to get out of the lease. We may not even look at the lease. We may say, hey, thanks for contacting us. What we're going to do now is try to market the space and get you out. So just stay put. I know it's a struggle right now, but if you can at least make those payments, we'll get someone backfilled, get them out of there, right? Mm-hmm. Easy peasy. Mm-hmm. And then it mitigates their loss as long as they're communicating. Otherwise, I've had the other groups that, you know, just go dark. Hey, where'd your sign go?
Yeah.
You know, next month.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we moved. Okay, well that's going to pose some issues.
Yeah, that's the communication. This goes across the board: residential, commercial. Communication is so important. The vast majority of landlords out there, and the ones I've ever dealt with very few exceptions, is they're willing to work with tenants in good faith when that tenant is doing the same.
Absolutely.
It doesn't make sense not to, from just a business standpoint.
Pure business, pure financial. For me to go through the exercise of releasing that space, it just financially it doesn't make as much sense to keep you in place.
Yeah.
So we like to work with them. We almost work with people, I'm going to say sometimes too much, if they're good communicators and, you know, they're asking and they're very just, we're a sucker for polite people and nice people. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, what's wrong with you, man? What's wrong with you?
They come at us like that and they're like, you know, struggle. I'll probably spend too much time trying to help.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
But it's to their benefit, our benefit.
Sure.
We're in the same boat, right? They're our tenant, and if they are ultimately successful, they usually don't complain about paying rent, right?
Yeah.
If they're making money.
Yeah.
So it's just it usually ends up as a win-win, and we always try to drive the situation. Not everyone at every situation can happen that way. It won't.
Yeah.
But we try to always take that direction. If we can steer it towards a win-win, keep the tenant happy, keep them in place, it's what we'll do.
Let's try to get to a sort of a finale here of thoughts on this topic. I want to end with what is your most interesting story, interesting experience that you've encountered in your years as a commercial real estate guy?
You know, I think example that would speak to, you know, good positive relations is we had a group that came, leased, you know, probably 2 executive offices from us, and has grown to, you know, maybe 9 or 10 office spaces, I forget, in this building. And they've just always been really good people to work with, and they've also been very understanding during certain challenges. I mean, literally, we showed up on a Friday morning, there was there was construction going on the second floor, and show up in the morning and there was water rushing out of the space on the first floor, out of the door onto the sidewalk. So clearly there's something going on in there. And, we're very, blessed to have great teams of vendors and personnel. I think we had the flooring replaced, construction, remediation, everything done. This was Friday morning, and we were back open for business Monday.
Yeah, impressive.
So 3 days. So when you're easy to work with, right, and understandable, it allows you to work together on situations. If they were causing a bunch of issues and it's only built through long-term good, trust building, right?
Yeah.
If they're a new tenant, it may be something different. But
right.
We've been with them and dealt with issues in the past. They know how we respond. They know that we're going to do the right thing. And they come in Monday and there's new carpet, there's new ceiling. I mean, everything's remediated, everything's perfect. But it's only out of trust. And now we're looking at a second floor space for them that now it's probably 5,000 or 6,000 square foot for them to grow into next. That's in another one of our buildings.
Yeah.
So now we're going to be able to take this individual, help them grow their business by being a partner, right? An advocate, and also the support mechanism to understand if the building isn't working for them, then they can't focus on their business, right? And now we're getting ready to pivot into a build out for this group for them to move into the space and maybe grow their business more.
Yeah.
And also with the communication, we can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Tenant, I know you have 2 spaces. You said you wanted a third. This guy's moving out in 2 months. And your vacancy between the spaces is nothing, right? They move in immediately.
Right.
And then they absorb the next one. So the vacancy goes down. And then now even the other one, hey, we weren't going to do this, but now they want this space this much faster. We're going to renovate it and get them moved in immediately. Wow. So it just, if you can do that type of stuff, we believe it ends up being there, but not everybody works that way. And I can refer someone to you that I work really well with, and you may go, Don, that guy's a goofball. It just depends, personality type. There's a lot of things that work. Yep. But that's typically our philosophy. If we can partner with them, be advocates for them, and really, we're in the same boat. Yeah. That's all. So
your ending story is one of positivity and encouragement.
Made my heart guy.
Made my heart glad.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Spread warmth.
I feel it. I feel the love. It's great. Well, Don, listen, we're going to go ahead and end the podcast today. We have to get to work now, I think.
Yes, I do have a meeting I have to go to.
Okay, well, let's do that.
But fortunately, it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. Yeah, we're glad for that. Well, listen, thanks, Don. I appreciate you being here and all the insight. Yeah, all the stories. It's great. We'll do it again, I'm sure. I want to be on your podcast next.
Yeah, Blue Dirt. We do need to get you. Michael is traveling through the Amalfi Coast for, I don't know, maybe a couple months straight.
Oh, wow. No. Okay, good for him.
I know.
Yeah.
No, he'll be back, I think, the first.
Okay.
So maybe next month we'll get it set up.
Sounds good. Yeah. So for those who want to look up Blue Commercial Property Management, Blue Dirt is one way of doing that.
Blue Dirt is our podcast.
Okay, and you can probably find it on any of the podcast forums.
Yeah. Yep. Apple and Spotify and all those other ones.
Very good. Yep. So. And then if you are, if you're looking for a commercial space, hey, contact you guys.
Yeah, we work with a number of other partners in the area. We don't do the sale and leasing, but I'll definitely give you my opinion.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, Don, appreciate it. Yeah. Everybody, thanks for listening and watching. We appreciate that, and we will see you on the next show. Have a good one.